All I do is daydream. They've been sleeping on us. I'm just
I
trying.
really wanted to interview you. I see you just as not only boots on the ground leadership with your team, but then also just your ability to have this vision, right? This vision for
Mhm.
what it should look like and seeing what everybody else is doing, picking it apart, putting a different plan to action, and running and doing the sellers and running a team and calling them out on whatever they need to call out and allowing us to step in and provide ISA services. But like I see what you're doing and
Yeah.
I'm going,
And I play pickleball and I work out a lot.
yeah, I know exactly. And I see your team thriving. Your ISAs have nothing but amazing things to say about all of you, especially you as a leader, but everybody on your team. And so, when we met back in August, that was our first time meeting. And then you were like, okay, I'm going to hire a leader for ISA services. Is this what you
Mhm.
expected it to be? Like, did you already have this planned vision for your team and we just came in and plugged in? Or were you really able to see the future by us being able to build you up to a certain point? And then you can go, oh shit, all right, now we need this. Like, did you already see this? Like, are you from the future and you're just living it out? Or
I had an idea of it in my head of what was possible and what needs to happen. Because I can't remember where I learned this from. I think it was from a book or from the concept from Salesforce, where it was talking about how like salespeople shouldn't prospect. And it's the same concept of like agents shouldn't prospect either. It's not what they want to do. It's not what they're best at. Like, and that's why like 𝗏𝗡𝗀𝐶ity is proven this. Zillow's proven this. I'm proving this. Agents just want to service and close deals. They don't want to make phone calls. They don't want to do all this online stuff, but that's where the business is at. That's where it comes from. There's a need for it. There's a value for it. But there are some people who would sit there and do that all day, just talk to people, set them up, tee up appointments and hand it off. That don't necessarily want to do all the frontline work and all that. And I think a lot of agents, when they get into the industry, that's their expectation, is they're going to have buyers handed to them. And when they join a team, that's their expectation too. They're going to have buyers, they're going to have deals handed to them to service and close. So I kind of think that's where the industry's at and going to. And I'm just seeing that trend ahead of time and building my own system with that. Like, I don't have a animosity towards like Zillow and Realtor and all these big marketing companies that are doing that thing. I'm looking at that going, I need to build my own system the same way, and do that even better than they do. Because what those companies don't have is the level of agent training and agent development that I have. Because eventually on Realtor and Zillow and all those, like, they got to go to an agent eventually anyway. And what is the agent doing with it from there? Which from seeing me work is the biggest thing that I focus on. And I hold my lead providers accountable, my ISA providers accountable, and then I hold my agents accountable. That's my job as the team lead, and where we hold up our end of the deal. Because you could have all those other things are great, but if your agents aren't that great and drop the ball, like, the whole thing is like worthless, whatnot. And that's ultimately comes down to like the consumer having a better experience, from the lead coming through to the ISA service that they get to what is the agent doing with them once they do get them, and how is the agent servicing them. And I honestly see that being the biggest like overhaul for the industry that's going on right now, is that people have to shift their attitude from an extortion, easy money, lazy money attitude. It's still big money in real estate. It's just you have to work for it. You have to go above and beyond. You have to like do things outside of like just order processing, which is what I've seen a lot of realtors think they can just make all this money just by taking an order. Like, literally a machine can do that, and machines are doing that. So if that's all the value you provide as an agent is to process an order, you don't really hold that much value. You're not going to make that much money. And this is where like the life coaching training I've went through has helped people to connect not only with other people, but with themselves more, so you can understand yourself more. And the more you connect with yourself, the more you connect with other people. Because at the end of the day, like, humans still want humans. Zillow just came out the other day and said this: people still want people. Like, I don't think any of this technology or outsourced services take away from that. If anything, they enable it even more to be more of a human. But so many of us aren't sure how to do that either. So it's kind of like, now that we've taken all that off the plate and we've taken all the distractions, excuses, everything else out of the way, where they can connect, it's like, all right, now I have to teach them how to connect with people. So many people are doing things online, not in person, whatever, and they're not quite sure how to connect with people from a social level and connect with themselves. And so it's like, it's all that deep development work that I'm very passionate about, what I want to do. Like, I don't really want to do ISA stuff, lead service stuff. I'm passionate about developing people through the agent academy side of this things, not just like, oh yeah, you're a realtor. You're going to come to me to be a realtor, but your whole life's going to get changed is what's really going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you've really taken a personal interest in the agents that join you. I know even when I was able to turn onto the huddles and whatnot, you really go into those deep dives of mindset, how you start your day, you know, name a positive, name a struggle. And, and that is like clockwork. You guys don't miss it. You guys don't miss one. I mean, you guys meet twice a day. You have, that's it. Everyone's expected to be there. Everyone's expected to talk about a positive and a pain point. And that's it. And we're going to work.
We look forward to them. I mean, that stuff's just as much for me as it is for them. Same thing with the one-on-ones. I mean, all this stuff. And I tell them that too. I'm like, I'm not doing this stuff because I have to. I'm doing it because I need to, because I need it. And they start to see the need for it too, where it's like they want to do it. And I tell all of them, it's like, you're all legitimately my partners. You're not my agents that work for me. You work with me and we're partners. And I expect two things from you. Like, I expect you to participate and be involved in that. But I also expect a higher level of responsibility and accountability from you when you're a partner too. You should know everything that goes on in this industry, everything that goes on in your role above and beyond. Be thinking of ways to do it. Don't just like meet my minimums or meet the minimum expectations. Like, hit your goals and act like this is your business too. That's the only type of people I'll accept on my team. Like, if you don't start acting like this, like I just recently let one of the agents go because he wasn't selling houses and he wasn't taking responsibility. It's like, I will not allow that to happen, because at the end of the day, like, culture eats strategy for lunch. I could have all the metrics, the numbers, the leads, all this, but if you're not the right person, it's all going to fail. So you got to be the right person too that's willing to do all those things. And I don't entirely know who really is that way or not until I put them in the system.
Yeah.
You might interview well, bullshit me well, whatever, and I give a lot of people a chance, probably more so than they should, to a fault a little bit. But then you just don't know till you put them in there and figure out who's going to make it and who's not.
Yeah, and until you expose them to your culture, they may have never been exposed to that. You know, and I find that a lot when people, you know, come into my company and then all of a sudden we're talking about mindset, we're talking about troubleshooting, we're talking about, well, what do you mean you can't find a house for that buyer? And that house doesn't exist and that house will never exist. And well, did you put it in the MLS? And that limited mindset, they don't even, I mean, they're just going out to everybody saying, well, there's no houses, there's no houses, there's no houses. I'm like, but did you look? Did you look?
That's my favorite question to ask them, is like, what have you done so far? Yeah. Well, it came to you. That's an issue. We got to stop doing that.
That's a problem.
I'm not your problem solver. Don't make me go to work from you. That's not my job as your team lead, is to come solve all your problems and put out all your fires as soon as you run into something. That's what I brought you on for. If you're not doing that, like, what is the value that I have? Like, what do I need you for? What do you do, like, in this role? Because if you're not critically thinking and problem solving, coming up with solutions, like, everything else is done for you. What is that? Why? How is there a need for you? There's obviously no need for you. So then where are you relevant there? Like, you got to objectively think about it that way. Like, the money's in the hard shit, the stuff that people don't want to do. Like, go find something that people don't want to do and get really good at it and go do it a lot. Like, and that's really what we're doing as agents. Like,
that's exactly, I mean, you couldn't have exactly right there where my mind gravitates to. Where can you take the pain away? And then build a culture around us so people want to join you, take the pain away. You know, I've been even from the mountains for years. You know, we're humans working with humans. Like, we're your support system. We're going to go through all your leads so you don't have to. And you still see them sitting at the desk, you know, dialing for dollars and, you know, ruining their mindset, trashing their salesperson mindset, where they need to just go out there and be closers, you know. But but well, when we
I guess to answer your question, like, I did see us going here. Like, all this has been by design. If you ask a lot of my team, like, they'll tell you, like, I don't really do much of anything unintentionally. And there's always a cause and effect to everything. And like, it's hilarious when they'll say to me, like, I had this buyer out of nowhere, or I had this lead out of nowhere. It's like, none of that's out of nowhere. Like, I could trace it all the way back of how it happened. Like, just study cause and effect and like see how these things are all connected. But it's like, people just see something that comes in their face and they don't ever think about, like, where'd that come from? Because that's usually my first question when they start talking about a lead. Where'd it come from? Because that has a lot to do with how you handle it, like with the source they came from, the context they have already that you know about them before you even talk to them. Because if they came from Zillow, that's one type of buyer. If they came from OpCity, that's another type of buyer. If they came from Google, that's a different type of buyer. If they came from Bing, they're probably an older person or they're military. If they came from YouTube, they're probably a reload. Like, all those things, like, we already know about them ahead of time based on where they came from. But if all we're doing is just like looking at like what's in front of our face and not thinking like bigger outside of this, we're missing a lot that goes on with that.
Yeah.
So I think it's paying attention attention to detail and just being like having your brain on and actually be able to critically think. And a lot of what I've seen is like, I got to teach agents to quit using their brain for memory and use it for problem solving. They're trying to remember everything in their head. They're trying to hold everything in their head. And it's like, you have that thing so full, you can't think critically, hold the conversation, concentrate on the person in front of you, because school taught you to memorize everything. And our job is not to memorize things. Like our brain sucks at remembering things. Like we try to hold all that in our frontal lobe instead of putting it in your CRM, put the notes in there, like put the system down. Like that's not for me to micromanage you. That's for you to remember all this stuff that you're not going to be able to remember how much you're doing with all these people. You're not going to be able to critically think when something comes up because you're so full of trying to remember stuff that you can't literally think. Like
that's on the conversation.
Yeah. And I feel like, that's not a real estate thing. That's just a business, sales and marketing thing. And more than anything, I feel like I'm just coaching people how to be realtor entrepreneurs, not just run around ding dong salespeople, which is what a lot of like people do when they come to this industry and like, oh, I'm good at sales, I'll be good at real estate. And I was like, no, you won't. Like you got to be self-employed and you got to be smart. And like, there's an element of sales in there, but a lot of what we do isn't like traditional sales. No. So it's like, you can't think like a salesperson or else you really won't make it here, because the marketers are the ones that win long-term in this. Like the salespeople are chasing the 3% of the right now business. The marketers are chasing the 97% big stuff long-term that takes 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months or longer to transact. But that's where the biggest money's at. But people don't have the patience or the systems or the money or the wherewithal to make it that long. Because I've been generating leads for like 4 years is all. I've had my license for 6. So like I'm still very new and young to this game, but I've done over 250 transactions. So it's like, that's the equivalent of somebody that's been doing it for 20 years. So it's kind of like I have a lot of the most recent relevant experience that's probably more valuable than somebody who actually has been doing it for 20 years. Because I don't have all that old stuff holding me back with, well, what about this or that, or all that stuff? Like I'm new enough and that's my advantage. So I don't have like some of those things hold me back. And I'm actually in a space where I can literally create whatever I want and I can make this look like whatever I want. So a little bit like I'm going off, like you asked if I saw this coming, I go off a little bit of just my, like, I don't see into the future, but I can like see things and I can intuitively put together what makes sense and how people think and behave. Like I'm a very empathetic person and I pick up on a lot of those things and I understand people's points of views and I see it through their eyes. Most of the time, like what I'm focused on is what is the consumer on the other end feeling and like going through when they're talking to us, like dealing with all these things, and how can I make that situation as best as possible for them. And that isn't always just being super nice, super friendly. Sometimes you got to be cold, hard, and direct to them because that shows that you care about them the most. They may not like you in that moment, but long-term, they're going to like you. Because if you tell them like, we got to get pre-qualified, it's not an option. Like we need to address that. They may not like that process, but in the long run, they're going to help you. And the way I equate that is like doctors do this all the time. They have you go through a little bit of pain to avoid a way bigger amount of pain. But if you avoided that little bit of pain, you'd have a way bigger pain in the future. I care about you enough to actually address that, bring it up, have that uncomfortable, awkward conversation so that in the long run, you really like me and appreciate me and you like me long-term, not just short-term and then hate me long-term. Yeah. So, and I see a lot of realtors getting lazy and taking the short route or not wanting to confront it, not wanting to address the issue. And it's like, this industry is for tough, strong people. You're either going to become one or you are one and you come to this industry and you learn to apply it.
Well, and just what you had said, one of the things that you do differently is that you go there caring about their situation. You go there as a listener, you go there as a problem solver. And a lot of agents and salespeople in general, they go there wanting to be liked. They need a client to like them. And they've been trained that if they like you, they'll work with you. And so they're closed off. They're just like, here's my beautiful presentation. You're going to hire me because you like me.
There's a degree of likability, but it's not people pleasing. Because usually when they hear likability, they hear people pleasing. People like me because I'm so direct and blunt and I tell the truth and I'm straightforward. Some people that might piss off, but that's like where, and the truth is I don't want everybody to like me. I don't want losers to like me. They better not like me because I'm not a loser and that's not my culture. And that's the mindset that goes with it. So I don't want everybody to like me. I want the right people to like me. And I want people that are willing, capable, able, nice, pleasant people to do real estate. Like I want those people to like me. I don't want the assholes to like me. Like we're contractors. We're not in the business of doing business for everyone. We just want the best people like to work with. So I think that likability piece too, like when people say like, oh yeah, do business with who you know, like, and trust. They might like you at first, but if you can't get their house sold and you can't get them a house, they're not going to like you in the long run. Like, it doesn't matter how much nice and friendly you are if you can't get them the result they want. Because at the end of the day, this is a results-based industry. They talk about relationships and popularity and build all that stuff. And I was like, that's true to an extent, to the ability that helps you get the result. Because if you have all these relationships, but you can't get results from them, they're not going to use you in business. You're not going to be in business. It's not going to matter.
Yeah.
And the other piece of this too is like, you have to build a relationship so that when it comes time to be cold, hard, direct, and you got to close and have those stern, hard conversations, they listen to you.
Yes.
Because if you don't build the relationship and you go try to go straight to a hard close, it's not going to work. But if you build a relationship, then they'll listen to your hard close and take it seriously and not be offended. But if you skip all the relationship part and just try to be a hardcore closer, badass, whatever, that's not going to work. Yeah. So you have to be able to do both, which is, I know is difficult for most people. And it's kind of the concept I tell my team is like, you got to go in like a lamb and out like a lion. Like you build relationship with soft skills and you close with hard skills. And usually people are one or the other. Like I was more on the hard side. I had to learn to be soft. There's a lot more people that are soft that got to learn to be hard, which is much harder to do than the other way around. But you have to be able to use both. And like my team cracks up when I use pickleball as an analogy, but it makes sense because you have to be able to play a hard game, a power game of hitting the ball hard, but then you have to play soft shots too, strategic shots that are more like defensive, and they set up the hard shots. Because if you're all hard all the time, that's what people expect. If you're all soft all the time, that's what people expect. You can go back and forth. People have no clue what you're going to do. And that's really like how you win the game. And it's a little bit the same here too. You got to be able to know how to shift back and forth from soft and hard.
Yeah, especially working with people, you know, in general. And one of the really cool things about your team that I picked up on right away is, you know, you really expect anybody on your team to do as good or better than you. In fact, you want
them to do better than me.
You want them to do better than you, almost so you have competition, right? Because you're going to thrive on that. Oh, I can do better. Well, I can fit in one more. Well, I can do one more. You're one of the only team leaders that I know that I'm working with right now that takes a personal interest in maxing out his agents with appointments set, appointments converted, tracking the ratios, and then holding them to it. I mean, they got to face you 2 times a day on if they can do what you believe they could do and explain why they can't do it.
And it's funny you say that, face it that way, because I look at it as support. And that's what most agents are looking at is they come in and what do they hear? They hear like, my broker didn't help me with anything. My team lead didn't do with anything. When you come to my team, you're getting the exact opposite of that. I'm going to be all over your ass. Because if I'm spending that much money, that much time, that much energy, you better be doing your work. You better be doing your thing. And at the end of the day, like I'm holding you accountable, but it's support. And I remember going over this with one of my guys, because he was saying something about like my training system, my onboarding system. He's like, well, you should probably do this, probably do that. And of course he hadn't sold any houses. So I'm kind of like, where are you coming in trying to critique my system when you haven't sold anything? I was like, how about you go sell some houses, then we'll talk. Yeah. But I was like, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. Yes, there are things that need to be developed. There are things that need to be worked, but there's nothing that can train you for everything that's going to happen in your business. The other side you need to this is a support system. Because no matter how many times I tell people, train people, prepare them for things, there's going to be shit they run into, things they deal with that they just need to be supported as they go through those things. Not just, you can't train your way into not having failures or not running into problems. You have to have a support system that's just as important as your training system. Because that's what I've found a lot of these agents have a tough time with. And I forget sometimes how difficult it was then to go through these things psychologically, emotionally, mentally. And people just need that encouragement, support. They're like, I'm not the only one going through this. I'm dealing with this hard shit. I don't have anybody to talk to or somebody that can actually relate and understand what I'm going through. And it takes me back a little bit, like when I talk to them, because like I remember when I was you and brand new, I didn't have that support either. I want to be there for you to help you through that, because it's not that you're not capable and you can't miss. You just don't know what you don't know, and you didn't have anybody there showing you, coaching you, helping you through this. So yeah, I'm hard on my people, but I love on my people a lot too, and I help them through some of the hardest shit they go through. So as hard as I am on them, I also care about them a lot and show them support as well. So I've had to deal with some of the craziest shit I've never had to deal with. Like I didn't know I was going to have to support one of my guys going through his family being in Ukraine in a war. And one of my other agents like had 2 family members pass away. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, God, that's a lot to go through to support people, but I could do it. And like, I'm thankful for some of my past struggles I went through dealing with some shit, so I could support people going through their stuff too.
Yeah.
But like, to me, like that's more about what like the coaching side of this industry is about, and like being a team lead is all that kind of stuff. And this is something I learned from my former partnership. One of my former mentors was saying to me too, is that like models and systems don't win in business like relationships do, because there's always going to be somebody who's cheaper, somebody's going to offer better pay plan, going to offer better split, this and that, whatever. But if you want your people to be loyal to you, you got to build it on relationships, good old fashioned relationships. Like that piece is still there. As much as we're improving tech and marketing and systems and everything else, you still got to hold your people together. And that's by giving a shit about with them, spending time with them, caring about them, getting involved with them. All of our meetings, when we do our one-on-one, start with like, how's Aleta doing? Be like, I'm good. I'm like, no, how is Aleta really doing? Oh, I'm good. Tell me about your life. What's going on personally with you? I want to talk about you personally before we get into business shit. Go to that first in business. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't let them like just give me some like feeder question and want to get right into business. Like I legitimately want to know and tell me, like, because all that has to do with your professional life too.
Well, it does. And I mean, to them though, they're bonding with you, but to you, you're figuring out, okay, mentally, are you with it right now? You know, you're about to go over all the numbers and you're about to, you know, either say, hey, this is terrible, or hey, well, based on the fact that you're dealing with deaths in the family and, you know, your family in Ukraine and you're kind of disconnected, I understand now. And by you just coming in, it's leadership. You care, you care where their mindset's at because you understand how it's going to affect their business. And
Well, I understand, like, we're dealing with people. They're not robots, machines, and they're not all just like cold, hard numbers. And that's the biggest, I can't remember when or where I learned this from, like studying like markets and statistics and numbers. It's like all these numbers and things that investors analyze and economists and everything, like it's all driven by people. People are behind all these numbers. People's emotions, psychology, human behavior, like drives it all. So that's why I got so into psychology, because it's like I want to know behind the numbers what drives the numbers. Because you can look at the numbers and make observations about trends and things changing this and that, and you can see those, but you don't really know why they're happening. And that's more where I got into this. So I was like, I see the numbers, and this helps a lot when I'm dealing with like our, you know, calls to appointments set to appointments held to under contract. What is behind all those numbers that's going on from a human standpoint, from psychology, human behaviors, things you're doing, not doing, because those numbers don't just show up like, and you're just like, oh, well, I put the calls in place and I put the leads in place and then it just, boom, it's there. You have to understand human psychology behavior to get the numbers to show up like they're supposed to. Because like I think we're at a 65% set to held appointment ratio. And then we're at a 35% closing ratio for the last like 2 months. So it's like, now that I know that and I see that, I go, all right, we want to sell 24 this month. So that means we need to hold 68 appointments this month. And last month we did 45. And so that means I need to bring in additional lead sources. I need to get more things going in here. I need to get more appointments held based on the 35% held ratio.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm studying more of my own personal numbers like that, but it's also like, you can hear the numbers, but I need to get into the psychology and the behaviors of what's everybody doing, what's everybody saying that drives those numbers, that goes with it all. So it's like, if you're a team lead and you're trying to just buy this shit or manage it into it, it's not going to work. Like you have to actually get this involved and earn it, and you have to build it. Like these businesses is why I like them, because you can't just buy them. You can't just step into them. Like you have to actually build this yourself personally. Like it's something that can't be easily like built and earned. It's also something that can't be easily taken away either. Cause it's like, you have to go through and do all the shit I did. Good luck. Cause I'm still doing it too. Yeah. So you're going to have to compete with me as well. It's also, I bring that fact up too, as far as loyalty goes with my agents, is they see how much shit I go through and how much I do and how much I take on for them. And they go, I don't want to do that. They go, I'm good with being an agent on your team. Like I see how much shit you go through and do and all that. And you're like, I'd have to compete with you and I don't want to do all that. I'm just going to be a badass agent on your team.
Yeah.
And that, guys, because I was explaining this to Max the other day, I was like, let's say you did go on your own. You'd have to start doing all your own leads, hire your own ISA, find your own TC, train them, fire your own admin, train them, like find all these people, hire them and train them. And you still got to be an agent and you're the only one and all the pressure's on you. Good luck. Takes a special kind of insane person to do that.
You just got 30 under 30 in your area. Was that post? You just got top 30?
Yeah, Max got one and then my former partner did.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
aren't
then
they fairly new in the business? I mean, aren't they fairly new to real estate, or have they been with you for a little
yeah,
bit?
Larry's had his license for 4 years. Max had his license for 2 years. And I can already tell you, I'm going to have a bunch more on there because younger people I like working with more just because they're more moldable. They have more availability. They're able to keep up more because a big piece of this business is just being responsive and available, answering your phone when the lead comes in, getting on it like 𝗏𝗡𝐶ity or even on our systems or Google local services. Like a lot of it is just being available, being there. Like, and don't discount the amount of like value that your client has of just being there for them, answering the text message, answering the phone call, answering their question. If you don't do it, here comes all their anxiety, craziness, like going crazy. All you got to do is like respond to what they have out there. And everybody's on their phones. And this is the analogy I use for people in like Chime and their systems and everything. And I tell them, I was like, you need to be checking your Chime and your bank account and your leads and everything else as much as you do your Facebook feed. And I know you're on there because I see you watching all my stories and I can see you guys on there because I'm posting on there constantly. So I know you're on there. So don't tell me you are. Treat Facebook or treat Chime, treat your CRM and your business just like you do Facebook. Go check it as often as you do Facebook because one of them pays you, the other one doesn't. Chime pays you a whole lot more than Facebook does. Don't get lost in the scroll hole. Like get on there, post what you need to, interact use it like a professional, but then get off and move on.
Yeah.
Like don't get lost in it.
Yeah.
And Facebook is a very like good thing when you start molding it and shaping it and crafting it. Cause like I use it as a retargeting platform and a social influence platform, but I intentionally paid attention to who I'm friends with and who I'm not. Cause I'll go in there every day and send out happy birthday videos to people or I'll delete them. And I also use a system called Friend Filter that goes in there and ranks like who's your best friends, who's the inactive ones. And you got to like delete and add and all that and scrub your database just like you do any other database. And Facebook is just another platform for me for that.
Yeah.
So
you got back.
And I'm not romantic about like deleting people because I had my brother-in-law one time give me a bunch of flack on one of my live videos and I deleted them.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, did you delete me? He's like, yeah, I don't need all that. Like, you think it's funny, but it's taken away from my image and what I'm doing, and you're discrediting me. And I don't appreciate it. I don't need to be friends with you on Facebook if you're going to act that way. But you have to take it to that level.
I don't have any of them. I'm still the youngest of 6. I'm still, the youngest daughter of, a mother that had a drug addiction. I'm still a daughter of an absentee father to my family. I don't have any on there. I don't need any of the negativity. I don't need any of the, oh, wow, you have yourself today. Like, get the fuck out of here. You have how hard I bust my ass and how much I care about people. And when you're first starting out, and not that you're first starting out, but when you get there out there on social media, and you might have prior to August, I'm just not sure, because really after August, I really started paying attention, of course, to your posts and whatnot, and taking an interest in your business. But you really have a great way of designing and molding your presence on social media.
They see what I want them to see.
Exactly. You're supposed to use it for. That's what I use it for. I mean, I get all of my.
They think they know a lot, but they only know like 10%. People are like, oh my gosh, Facebook, is that how you're doing? It's like Facebook is a secondary thing for me, and like it could go away and I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Because I don't generate all my business from there. It's a secondary retargeting thing or like friends and family type of thing. But even if it went away, my business would be fine.
Yep.
But a lot of people treat it as such a big thing, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go talk to my 200 friends and family, and it's like, that's it. Like I have 14,000 people in my database. I'd rather talk to them than my 200 people on Facebook.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's where, like, if you had your VA or if you had one of your ISAs that every single time you guys confirmed or got a buyer appointment, and then here they're adding them to your guys' liking them from your Facebook and then adding them to your Facebook page. Now, all of a sudden you have a business model where over time you're going to have 5,000 locals. And then when you tag them, it goes to their people. So as you start building that network locally, and that's more important than your 200 friends and family that are never going to use you, or they know where to find you.
Well, it's the concept of building social capital. Because when I go send out happy birthday videos to everybody individually on a like daily basis to them all, they like me more. So when my posts show up, they're going to more likely to comment on them, engage in them, interact with them. And that's how the algorithm like sees that. And so if the algorithm sees more engagement, more likes, it's going to show your stuff to more people. It's more quality. Yeah. Facebook got rid of the spamming, and it's more quality based than quantity based. So you have to just learn how the algorithm works and work with it. And I like the way they do it because then it's only showing things to people that they want to see.
Yeah.
And so that's how you got to do it. And I actually just got a message from a client from like a year and a half ago. It said she lost my number, but she hit me up on Messenger and she's looking at a house and she's like, hey, how do you sell and buy a house at the same time? I'm looking at this house out in Cheney. And so it's like, if I wasn't doing that, if I wasn't putting those things out there, like I wouldn't have got that situation going on there.
Yeah.
She would have went and listed with some other realtor or went to someone else.
Yeah, they wouldn't have known where to find you. But it is a business tool. And that's where it's good that you talk to your agents about it being a business tool and you put your foot down with your brother-in-law and everything. Cause it's like, dude, this is my business. This is how I make money.
Right. And you have to like, you get started with the sales hustle, but if you don't start putting in the long-term marketing assets, like reviews is a big one, like Facebook things, like your email database, like all those things, like you're going to be a sales hustler for the rest of your life, which you can't do that the rest of your life. You will run out of energy and time. You need to start thinking like a long-term marketer so that you have a database where business comes to you and you just service it and close it. And that's where it's like, you start with sales hustle, but if you don't start putting in the marketing pieces, like as it goes, like you'll always be stuck in the grind of chasing the 3% business. Like you never really get the good life that we're after, that what most people come to in real estate for, which is what they think it is from the start, but you got to bust your ass to get there. Like, and it won't be like that forever, but you got to put in the work up front and you got to put in the long-term marketing assets. Like the YouTube video that I made like 11 months ago that has like 12,000 views about living in Wichita has generated me a ton of buyers from that one video, but I did it 11 months ago. If I wouldn't have done it 11 months ago, none of that would have been going on.
Yeah, I've gotten more vocal in the last couple of years as far as what an ISA's purpose is within your company. And then I try to take as much one-on-one or personal interest as I can in the first 30 days at least. Not all the time when I do that, but usually anything over the advanced package, I take a personal interest to make sure that we're integrating the ISA model into their business properly. Because it opens up so many voids in the business and I never really know which ones. And a lot of time it's agent talent. And when you start flooding their calendars with opportunities and they're still not having the closings, and then that team lead has to step in or offer training, that's usually a huge disconnect too, is that team lead can't train them, doesn't want to, they're disconnected. Or this
I found a lot of times they can't. Like, so we use different levels in our business where we go like, level 3 is like, I know what I need to know. I'm just not good at it yet. Level 4 is I'm so good, I can do this in my sleep. Level 5, I know so well I can teach it. A lot of agents get to level 3 or level 4. I know what I need to do, but I'm not good at it. Or I'm so good at this, I can do it in my sleep. Very few of them know how to coach it or train it. That's usually the issue, is like, just because you're a good agent and a good salesperson doesn't mean you should be a team lead. But that's what they keep hearing from everyone. This is the biggest like misnomer I had to figure out and sort through in my business, is I kept being told that like, oh, you got all these leads, you're a good marketer, you're a good agent, you need to start a team, you need to bring on agents. That was all terrible advice that I had to find out. Like I needed a support team before I needed agents. I needed a TC, I needed an ISA, I needed an admin, and I needed a showing partner before I ever needed buyers agents. But I tried to bring on buyers agents without any of that shit. And guess who got to be the ISA, the TC, the admin, all that shit that I didn't want to do. And it's also like, I got to work twice as much for half the pay and deal with all your newness, frustration. Like basically I'm doing the whole job already for you. What is your value there if I have to do everything for you? Like, and so that's where I've seen like the way teams are built, like needs to be overhauled of what's being coached, because it's not working. Like the traditional team model of like, well, just get good at being a realtor and then bring on agents. Like that's not a good way to do it. You need your support staff in place first. You need to keep selling, keep doing what you're doing. And then essentially invite agents to come use the same stuff you're using, which is what I'm doing at this point. Like I go, you get to come in and use all the same systems that I use. I use them now and I'm still going to keep using them, but essentially you get to come in and copy and use all the stuff I have already built. And then you get to take advantage of the economy of scale. Because if you try to do this by yourself and hire all these people, it's going to cost you way more than like the split or what you're giving up for me or whatever. So like you're always going to have a commission split that's going down, whether you're on my team or you start your own team. Your commission split constantly goes down. Every entrepreneur that gets it understands this, that it's like, as you make more money, your split, profit margin, whatever you want to call it, goes down, but you make more money. Like Walmart operates off of like a 1% profit margin, but they make billions of dollars. So like, would you operate off a 1% split? If you made billions of dollars, most of them would go, yeah. What if you operated off a 25% split? Because that's about what team leads are shooting for, is like 25% profit margin. So if they go, if like, phrase it that way as a salesperson. would you operate on a 25% split to you and 75% to your company? Because if you want to run a team, that's what you're going to do. I've used a few different ISA services before to try to do this of where we're at. And like I've gone cheap with it for some of them. And I've hired people that have cost less than yours. I've also hired people that have cost more than yours. And that's where it's like, it's taken a while to get this piece figured out. Like any piece of your business you're trying to plug in, like just because you put it in the first time, like it may work the first time. A lot of times it doesn't, but just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean you shouldn't go there. You got to keep trying, like trial and error. Because sometimes you bring things on, you go, this is working, but it's cost me way too much money. It's eating all my profit. And like, that's what I've seen a lot of people do with like in-house ISAs. They'll go give them the world. Same thing with agents. They go give them the world, give the farm away. And then these team leaders realize, oh shit, I'm not making any money. Cause like, yeah, this is working. We're selling houses and I got units and money coming in, but I'm not making any money because I gave it all away. So that was one thing that I found with like having an in-house ISA at first. Part of that was a development of me as a trainer to train an ISA better because I could do it well, but it's a whole different thing to train them well. And then other ones that I went too cheap with, like, yeah, it didn't cost me a lot of money, but they weren't converting any leads. They weren't putting in the dials. So like what I found with yours is that it was the right cost for me so that I could be profitable for what I was getting. Now, I also had some experience with this, so I wasn't expecting like what most people expect with an ISA of like just a buyer ready to go. Here you go. They're ready to buy a house, like was what most people think an ISA service is. Like they think that they're just going to be like, hey, this buyer's ready to go buy a house. Just show up and write the contract and you'll get the deal done. Like, no, you still got to have the skills as an agent to convert them, work with them, just like you would any other situation. Just the ISA is there to tee up more opportunities for you so that you can go convert them and close them. And they're like they put through, I think like 6,000 dials a month in my system. Yep. And I go from that, like how many opportunities are they teeing up? And then what are my agents doing with those opportunities? Like once they do identify it, my agents got to be holding up their end of the deal and like continuing to follow up, call them, convert them, send them video text, send them properties, follow up, like all that shit's got to still be there. Like an ISA is not going to do the work your agent should be doing. And that's what I've been seeing a lot of team leads have in expectations. They think the ISA is going to replace the agent. The ISA just amplifies the agent because if the agent's not doing the job, the ISA is not going to make them any better. And that's kind of what I saw with this is I just needed more at-bats, more opportunities. I needed to get more in front of more people. My agents need to get in front of more people. And the ISAs like fill the role for that to happen is what I saw there. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it comes with the appropriate expectation up front of what they're there for and what they do. And then what you need to do as the agent or the team lead with it once they go from there. And that I think you could probably speak to that, how much there's usually a disconnect with team leads or people looking to hire an ISA of what exactly an ISA does for you and what exactly leads are in this whole new environment of online leads and ISAs and all that. So
what advice would you give them, or whether hiring us or prepping before they hire us, anything to give them some advice?
So if they're a solo agent, I would say like what I was just saying there, get your support team and support staff in place and really think hard about the fact if you really want to build a team and big agents or not, because there's a lot of single agents who have like an admin, a TC, and maybe an ISA and are cool and they're good and they got a good lifestyle and they're taken care of and they don't need to have 10, 15, 20 mega agents team. Build a support team that takes care of your clients well, get you the lifestyle you want, but don't think that you got to go to a 200, 300, 400 unit a year team just because that's what's being promoted in the industry. Because you got to take into account the context of who's promoting that and why they're promoting that. Because it's usually coaches that are promoting that want you to use their coach's service, but is that really the best model for you personally to be running? Because that might be for someone like Blake Corey, Adam Bailey, or myself, but I know that's not for someone that's not of that level. Like I'm thinking of my former partner, Larry, should not run a mega team like that. He's not that type of person. He doesn't want that. He's cool with just having a few deals and selling 50, 75 houses a year. And it's still a good lifestyle, still good income, but he shouldn't be building a mega team. So it's like take into a context who you are personally, what you really want, and don't just get pressured into thinking, I got to build a mega team and I got to be the best and I got to be number one. Because if you really saw like what it takes, the pain and the sacrifice and the struggle and the financials and all that goes with it, it's like, I don't think you really want that. Like you want the lifestyle, but you don't really want to go to that high of a level. Like you got to be kind of a insane person to go to that level, like with it all. Somebody that's struggling and bringing in an ISA, I'd probably say to really like evaluate your lead sources, like, cause it all starts with marketing. You know, no matter what, you have to evaluate where your business is coming from first and what you're getting. And honestly, I'd probably say too, like what season or stage of your business you're in, depending on like how many units you've done. Cause like I've looked at this way is like, it's not how many years you've been in the business, it's how many units you've done. Like how many units old are you in the business? And I say units specifically because it has to do with your past client database, your repeat business, your referrals, that side of thing, regardless of like, price point and commission amount and all that. I'd say it has to do with, you have to have enough experience, enough transactions, enough of a database, enough going on before you start to build into the next like phase of it. And that, that could be for some people, that could be 1 year. For some people, that could be 5 years, 10 years. The time isn't as much relevant as much as it is the units on everything. And so the amount of units you've done, I think, is a better way to gauge where you're at in your business than the amount of time that you've had in your business. So I'd probably tell them to really evaluate where they're at, because it may be the right time for them to bring in an ISA. It might be just time for them to suck it up and buckle down and do some work themselves first. Because at the end of the day, like, you don't want to have them hire an ISA and then them not be ready for it, them not be able to financially actually do it, because us realtor entrepreneurs are risk prone and they go, oh, that's a cool idea, and I can afford that for 1 or 2 months, but I can't afford that for 12 months. Exactly. And so it's kind of like, sometimes you got to just tell yourself, not yet, not no, just not yet. Like, put this thing off later, because when you launch these things, you want to be able to commit to them for an entire year. Yeah. Not just like, oh, I'm going to try this out for 1 month or 2 months. Like, basically you have the intention of going for all 12 months. If you can't see yourself like sustaining that for 12 months, like, don't go there yet. Buckle it up, save more of your cash, stack your profitability back. There's plenty of ways to get cash going too, with 𝗏𝗡𝐺ity, with Zillow, with some of these things that, like, they're not the devil, they're not the end of the world. They're just there for a time and place in your business. They're there to get you started, get cash flow going, but then wean yourself off of them with PPC leads, YouTube things, marketing, things like that. You might have to pay like a 35% referral fee or some higher lead costs at the front, but you get the cash flow going, you get your business going, you get things going, and then you wean yourself off of it to get to the better shit.
Absolutely.
And so, like, that's, I guess, probably my best advice, is that those companies aren't the devil or the end of the world. Just use them for what they're meant for, which is initially to start, but then get yourself off of them.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Great. Ben Meyer, thank you so much for joining me on this, and I'll get you over the recording and stuff too. We'll post it and splice it up. And
sounds great. I need to go put it on my YouTube channel, so I want a raw clip.
Yeah, you got it. I can't thank you enough for your support and allowing us to be your ISA service provider. It truly means
sounds great. Appreciate it, you guys.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.
Let's see what they seen.